Good job today, man. One at a time, and we'll get the job done. Y'all know what to say on three. 1, 2, 3.
And the home of the Jets.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday night with my good friend Matt O'Leary. What's up, man?
Hey, Tyson, how's it going, my man? Long time no see. Last time I saw you, we were hanging at the Shinedown show.
We had a good time there, and we talked a little bit on your stream too, which was great. And Matt, we got some breaking news just now.
Oh,
The New York Jets signed Billy Turner to a one-year deal with a max value of $3.15 million.
okay. All right.
Offensive line, I guess he's a tackle, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. That's all that is. It's offensive line depth. I love it. He has starting experience with the Packers a few years ago, so he's familiar with both Hackett and Rodgers. I think it's fine for depth.
Yeah, I mean, the more the merrier at this point. Bring in competition, bring in depth, and see what happens. So before we get started, you guys did a phenomenal job covering the draft, man. You, Green Bean, Ryan, it was incredible. And the first thing I want to know is how much research and time do you put into it to actually be prepared for all that?
A decent amount goes into it. A lot of reading up on mock drafts, a lot of player rankings, a lot of hours of watching these guys. When it gets to day 3, I'm gonna be honest, the knowledge becomes a little bit less. But the first 2-3 rounds, I think we're usually pretty solid on what these guys' strengths are, what they do well, how good of a fit they are. And then you get your favorites in there who are like a day 3 sleeper, and we get to talk about that. But it's not easy, man. There's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes, but it's a blast. I love doing it every year.
No, you guys killed it, man. It's just like, and then you have that, and then you had the Islanders playing at the same time. So how stressful was that?
It was stressful. I blocked out that you were on the stream at that time where I was watching I was obviously in a bad spot. Did not end well for me. There was a lot going on. I had like my left eye going that way, my right eye going on the draft, and it was just overstimulated. That's for sure.
So now going into this draft, they don't have a top 5 pick. They don't have a top 10 pick. So it's like, for me, my expectations were a little bit lower. What were your expectations in general going into the draft for the Jets?
Yeah, that's a great point. The last few years, the expectations have been pretty high because they've had top 10 picks and multiple first rounders and a ton of picks in the top 40. For me, I kind of just wanted the Jets to come out of this game or this draft, I guess, rather, with guys who could be game ready and come in and, at least in the first couple rounds, get guys who could be immediate impact guys for, a team that's going to be, win now expectations. You don't trade for Rodgers and then say, let's hope we take a marginal step forward. Yep. They're going all in, and the hope was to come away with some guys who could help with that.
So going in the first round, once the Jets swap with the Packers, you move back to 15, which is starting to be like no man's land a little bit. What were you shooting for at 15?
Yeah, I thought a tackle would still be there, and obviously that didn't turn out to be the case. I thought it would end up being either Darnell Wright or Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
Darnell Wright went a little bit earlier than I thought he would to the Bears. They moved down to 10 and they grabbed him. And then the Steelers come up and snipe Broderick Jones the pick before. But when the Jets were on the clock at 15 with no tackle, my mind went, all right, I guess they'll go with the wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, or maybe Kalijah Kancey on the interior defensive line. I was really surprised with Will McDonald. It's still not my favorite pick of this draft class, but I understand why Saleh likes him. They love edge rushers with speed off the edge. And that's exactly what he brings. I just am curious to see how much playing time he gets in year 1, because we just saw, Jermaine Johnson just pretty much be a rotational player. So I'm wondering if we'll see the same thing with McDonald here in year 1.
Yeah, I was in the same boat. I was thinking Cansey. I was thinking like they want defensive tackle, but they were chasing it with Calais Campbell and Fletcher Cox and everybody else. I'm like, you know what? It just made sense. It kind of fills a hole. Like, all right, or a receiver. And I was completely caught off guard. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, we're doing what? Because we have like the Jets went from having no pass rushers to almost like too many. Where you're like, wow, we have a lot of them now. When are they actually going to play? Then you say, you know what, Huff could be gone next year, Lawson. So I got that. I got the speed. The only thing that my concern was he's smaller, man. He's only like what 239, 240. He says he's gonna put on weight, but I'm like usually in the past, like that reminds me back to like the Aaron Maben days with the Jets, where he was a kind of a smaller guy. I was concerned about the size, and then you see the bend. I mean, is that why you were concerned about him?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the reason because, like you said, he's on a little bit on the smaller side. So you wonder if he's more of just that pass rush specialist and not an
Yeah.
every down kind of player. Which, if that's the case, I don't love that in the 15 in the top 15. But obviously, there's room to grow for all these guys. He talked about putting on weight. Um, he was someone who they obviously liked, I think, a little bit more than the consensus. I feel like consensus was kind of late first, early second, like very early second for him. But they obviously liked him enough to use a top 15 pick on him. So I would assume their assumption is that he would develop into a more every down kind of player.
Yeah, and this is good. I was going to ask you next was there were a series of rumors that the Jets went running back at 15, but obviously they went earlier. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if I'd be like, what would have been your reaction to that?
I'm going to be honest. I think I would have hated that. And
Yeah, me
I know
too.
adding playmakers is always fun, but a running back in the top 15 after you drafted, Brees Hall
Yeah.
last year and traded up into, high second round to draft him. I don't love that from a roster construction standpoint. I don't think that would have made too much sense for me.
No, not at all. I was thinking the Jets probably tried to trade back from 15. It didn't work out. They're like, you know what, this is the best guy on our board. We take the pass rusher, solid. He's all about it. So then you go second round where it's like, all right, you're hoping offensive line. I was at least like you got to get. And one of the biggest needs going into the draft for me was center. Like you want to get a center, you want to get an anchor, a long-term solution there because Conor McGovern's back for 1 year, but he's not the answer. So they go and get Tippmann, but now you figure that's Joe Douglas's guy because he had the pick of the litter. He could have took whatever he wanted to. Did you want JMS or did you like Tippmann?
I like Tippmann, but not as much as John Michael Schmitz. I mean, that was my favorite center in this draft class. But I thought both JMS, Tippmann, and Luke Weipler, who I think didn't go until day 3. I think he ended
Yeah,
up
you were
going in the
late.
4th round. But I
Yep.
had those 3 guys relatively close. So if they came away with any of those 3, I would have been okay with it. For the Jets, they obviously like Tippmann for his athleticism. If
Yep.
the common theme in this draft class, every single guy they got was just a phenomenal athlete, like
Yep.
relative athletic score off the charts kind of guys. And Tippmann has the size and he has the speed and is a little bit better of a scheme fit than JMS is, even though I think JMS is probably the better prospect of the two, if that makes sense.
Now, the one thing you mentioned versatility, which you're like, Douglas loves that for his offensive lineman. There's no doubt about that. So you have McGovern can play guard. Tippmann, I guess, can play guard. Some analysts said he's probably be a better guard than center. How do you see them playing that out? Do you think it's going to be an open competition at center and the odd man out can maybe move to guard? Maybe Elijah Vera goes to tackle. Is that a world where that could happen?
I guess they could. They definitely could. I think it will be an open competition for center, and I do think Tippmann has a pretty good chance to win it. I think that's how talented he is. McGovern's okay center, but they brought him back for essentially backup money.
Yeah.
Now, it's been a few years since he has played guard, but he does have that ability. For me personally, I would rather move AVT back inside and just get him to like stick there in that one spot.
Yeah.
I love that he's versatile and can bounce around, but he's played 4 positions in 2 years. I would love to just give him a spot and let him stay there and develop at that spot than continuing to move him around. And for me, I think that's right guard. I think they're going to have it's going to end up being Tomlinson left guard, and then it's going to be AVT at right guard. I don't know what they're going to do with the tackles. I would assume, Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton maybe battle it out on the left-hand side. But like you mentioned, AVT does have that versatility. So if they did decide to push him outside and then have one of McGovern or Tippmann play guard, that's another workaround of waiting on, because they didn't draft a tackle in the first, couple rounds of this thing.
Yeah, so I was thinking, Dwayne Brown plays left tackle, and then they have Becton and Max Mitchell, I guess, compete for the right tackle. I mean, Becton's kind of like the X factor of all of this because you see what he's doing on social media. You're excited to see it. I didn't read social media much today. I don't think they picked up the 5th-year option. Maybe they did. I don't think they did.
No, I didn't see any. I was looking to see if they did or didn't, and I haven't seen any update on it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I mean, I've been wrong a million times before, but he's basically in a contract year. So he's coming in super motivated. He's going to play great, but it's like between him and Mitchell at right tackle, see what happens there. So your offensive line, it should be stout. It has a good mix of veterans and young guys. So that's a positive. So then they go out and they get Carter Warren, who, local kid, interesting prospect from Pittsburgh. What were your thoughts on that pick? It obviously addresses a need where it's like offensive line, tackle, a tremendous athlete, good talent, but probably not ready to play right now. What were your thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I was okay with it because, like you said, they didn't address a tackle yet at that point in the draft, and I think it was important to add depth. And when we first hopped on, you broke the news of them adding depth with a veteran. I think that's kind of what they're loading up to do. I look at it kind of the same way as I looked at Max Mitchell last year. I looked at him as a guy that they probably want to sit and develop. Now, due to injuries, Max Mitchell had to play way earlier than I think anyone expected him to, and he was okay. But I look at him as probably, maybe a swing tackle, a plus backup. I think I'd be surprised if he turns into like an every down starter, but landing at the top of day 3, a quality backup tackle isn't necessarily a bad thing either. So I think that's where he ends up sticking.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a learning year this year. He's got a good mentor in Dwayne Brown, and then
Yep.
next year hopefully he gets, he may see significant playing time if Beckton leaves and Brown leaves. They could both be gone next year, So then after that is probably the pick that I'm most interested about is Izzy, the running back from Pittsburgh, where that's a burner, where you have Breece Hall, where we love Breece Hall, but I think expectations early on is make sure he's healthy. Don't rush him back. If that means week 3, week 4, I don't care. It's just get him right first. Let's not rush things. Then you got a guy like this that's just explosive as hell, man, and young too. So what were your thoughts on getting a running back there?
I love it. I like Izzy a lot. The more and more I continue to watch him, I'm more impressed. He put up 20 touchdowns last year, which is just insane. But he's incredibly explosive. He's a home run hitter, and this is the spot where I'm okay with them adding a running back. Not in round 1 at pick 15, round 5, day 3 guy with a ton of speed, high upside, has kick return experience too at Pittsburgh, which with Braxton Berrios gone, they're going to be looking for a new kick and punt returner. So maybe throw his hat in the ring with Hardman and Bam Knight and guys like that. So I love the athletic upside, and you're right, you need some insurance behind Breece. So I like this a lot.
Now, the question I have for you is the running back group in a whole is, first of all, it's very young. You figure Michael Carter's young, Breece Hall, Izzy, Zonovan Knight's young. So you don't have that veteran guy with Ty Johnson gone. You also don't have a thumper either. Like you don't have that goal line, that power guy. People like last night were saying, well, you have Nick Baldwin as a fullback, but do you think the Jets could still look in that free agent market, look at an Ezekiel Elliott, look at a Leonard Fournette to maybe be like that veteran, also that power guy for the offense?
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. They don't really have, that guy that, Bam isn't really that guy. Michael Carter obviously isn't, and Izzy isn't as well. That would be interesting. I think Ezekiel fills that role the best at this point in his career. He's nowhere near the player that he once was when he was first drafted in his first few years in the league, but short yardage situations, if he wants to come in here and play on a vet minimum deal, I'd be interested in bringing him in. But you're right. If they were looking to add something else to this running back room, a short yardage back would make sense.
Yeah, that's the one thing we're kind of looking at where it's like, especially with the game on the line, when you grind it out, like I kind of want that veteran there, but we'll see what happens there. So then one of the biggest needs I thought going into the draft was you need a linebacker with speed, man. You want a sideline to sideline guy, also a guy that can cover. That's been it's been a problem with that defense for as long as I've been watching this team. So what'd you think about Zaire Barnes? I know he's a special teams guy. Does he really fit in need, or will he help this defense this year? Or is he more like a project?
I think he's a little bit of a project, but he'll play specials right away. You mentioned the speed at the linebacker position. That's what this regime seems to really value. They love the speed at the linebacker position. They had, Quincy Williams flies around on the defense. They brought in Kwan, who's an athletic linebacker last year. Maybe they could still bring him back, but I look at him at where he was taken as someone who's probably going to be more of a special teamer, but with, again, a high athletic profile. He can cover, which is important. We know how difficult it is for the Jets linebackers to keep up with tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. Hopefully it develops into something a little bit more than just a special teamer. That's the goal, obviously. But I think, immediate reaction and expectation is he'd be a quality special team guy.
Yeah, I'm hoping they bring Quan back for a variety of reasons. I mean, half the team is campaigning for him, which is great, but it's just like I don't want to chintz out on defense, man. He's a quality player. I think he's not going to get the money he wants. They signed him late last year too. I think it was probably in July. It was later on, so I think it's in the same boat. And that's like an area there. And the other area for me is safety, where you want a safety that can cover and has some range. Like Clark isn't really that. Whitehead definitely isn't that in terms of like they're both like box guys. They're both thumpers and big hitters, but you like I know the Jets are kind of high on Tony Adams. I'm not sure what you think about Tony Adams, but to me, that they still need that rangy safety that can make some plays and get some interceptions.
Yeah, they don't really. You're right. They don't have that. And I totally agree with you. I think Chuck Clark and Jordan Whitehead as a duo is a little redundant. I think they kind
Yep.
of both play the same stylistically at safety. I think Clark is the better of the two
Yeah.
and a little bit more consistent. So almost surprised in a way that Whitehead's still here. They could have cleared up. I think it's a little over 7 million if
Yep.
they decided to cut him. But you're right. They don't really have that guy. Adams is someone that they're high on and is an interesting product, but I don't know if I'm willing to bet on him being a starter for this year.
Yeah, me neither. That's the most interesting. And they have Will Parks there too, which they feel good about. But it's just like I was disappointed with Whitehead. And like you said, you're waiting for once Aaron Rodgers came here, you're waiting for all these cuts. Like who's gonna go? Like there's gotta be some of these guys have got to be out of here. We thought like maybe Whitehead, maybe Corey Davis, maybe all these guys, and they're all still here as of now, which is crazy. So the next pick they go to, is Bernard Converse, very versatile player, can play slot, can play outside, can play safety. To me, it's like I understand why Sal these guys drafted him. It makes a lot of sense as like a role player in the backfield. But do you have any expectations for him, or is he going to be another guy? It could be a special teams guy, I guess.
Yeah, it could be a special teamer and another day 3 corner that they view that they could transfer to safety, kind of like what they were doing with Jason Pinnock, and then
Yep.
doesn't make the roster, ends up starting for the Giants down the stretch last year, which is just wild. But I think that's kind of the same mindset that they have here is they view him as, he played a lot of corner in college, but probably is going to end up converting to safety at the next level.
Yep.
So I think they're going to work on that. And again, I don't know how much you could really expect from him in year 1, but maybe down the line, he's someone who can come in and give you something.
All right. And the last pick is probably the most popular pick for probably some of the wrong reasons, but a very athletic tight end who is, I guess, a workout freak and he has all these great stats in terms of his workouts and all his numbers. What are your thoughts on the new tight end that's going to be the Jets sensation in training camp?
Yeah, I love it. Zach Kuntz, just huge,
Yep.
absolutely insane size, incredible speed for his size too. Like, again, he's going to be fun to watch in the preseason. Probably going to be, I would guess, a practice squad player, something
Yeah.
like that, his first year. But potential to be like a red zone jump ball threat. He's just a crazy
Yeah.
athlete who they could line up as a big slot and have some fun with.
Now, the tight end position to me is interesting because we have no idea. You have Azuma and Conklin, obviously. Rucker, we don't even know what he is, right? Because he barely played last year when he was active. Then you add Kuntz. And the thing is, what do you see the tight end role in Hackett's offense, man? Because I know last year with the poor quarterback play, if they were open or not, they weren't getting the ball. Do you think Rodgers can feature them more to offset maybe not having an extra receiver? Could he feature tight ends more in the offense?
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, you look a couple of years ago when Rodgers was putting up big numbers in Green Bay, Robert Tunyon had 10 touchdowns one
Yep.
year. In the red zone, Rodgers likes going to the tight end. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if a guy like Conklin ends up with like 6 touchdowns because he has a lot of reps in the red zone. I definitely think the tight ends could be more involved. I'd love to see more of Ruckert personally. I thought
me
he
too.
was very good as a blocker at the end of the year. And to me, there's no reason that they can't utilize him in that role and, throw him a couple passes. I thought even at Ohio State, he was underutilized as a pass catcher, but I think there's some upside there. And, I like the veteran presence in Uzama. And I would guess Conklin's going to be a favorite in the red zone for Rodgers.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. I'm excited to see the offense flow with a real quarterback. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It just seemed like there were so many opportunities lost last year where you don't know what we're going to see. Now, in terms of just the offense in general, what is your expectation? Do you think it's going to be a pass heavy offense? Are they going to feature the run more? How do you think they're going to roll it out? Because we've been so excited to see Aaron Rodgers, everybody's like, oh, 300 yards a week, 350. Could they feature the run more than we think they're going to?
I think the average person probably thinks they're going to pass way more than they end up passing. And that's not to say like he's only going to throw like 3,500 yards. I still think he's going to clear 4,000 yards, throw probably 30 touchdowns on the year, which is historic numbers for the Jets. But I think they are going to feature, the run a good deal. And they did in Green Bay. They had two really good running backs when he was there and when he was thriving. And that opens up the pass game. Having someone like Breece Hall, who is a home run threat, you add Izzy, same deal there as someone who is a home run threat and can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think they're going to be a balanced offense. I don't think they'll be too run heavy or too pass heavy. I think they'll be somewhere in between, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if they, especially early in games, try to run the ball.
Now, in terms of the receivers, everybody loves Garrett Wilson. I love the signing of Hardman. You have Lazard, who's Aaron Rodgers' best friend. They're going to every game in the country together. That's great. But do you see them signing somebody else? I get this feeling. I think Randall Cobb will be here probably by August. What do you think about Randall Cobb?
I could totally see that, and I'm fine with him being the sixth receiver or whatever it is. I don't think you have to worry about Randall Cobb getting signed and it's gonna be like, oh, well, now there goes Garrett Wilson reps. Like, that's not gonna be the case. It's just he'd essentially be a backup slot receiver to what Mecole Hardman's gonna end up being for this team. And it's someone that Rodgers is comfortable with. On third downs, you're comfortable with him getting the football. He's not the same guy that he was during his prime. No one's expecting that of him, but I'm with you. I think if he wants to come in on the cheap and be the sixth wide receiver and try to go on a run with Rodgers, why not?
Now, are you surprised that Corey Davis is still here? Because I'll be completely transparent. I thought he's part of the trade package. I thought he was going to be gone. He's still here. And then there's rumors that he's been training with Aaron Rodgers in Tennessee. Like, who knew that, right?
Yeah, for whatever reason, I'm with you. I thought he would be a cut candidate. I thought he could potentially be in the trade. I thought if they signed Odell, he'd be gone, but none of those things happened. They didn't get Odell. He's still here. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he is going to be a part of this team. The Jets staff really like him. Rodgers, every time I hear him speak, he talks about Corey Davis, it feels like. So I think he likes him. And that's another one. I'm curious to see what he can do with some steady quarterback play. His last year in Tennessee, he was good. He put up 900 yards. He's underachieved in my eyes a little bit as a Jet, a little banged up, and drops have been an issue.
Yeah.
But as your third or fourth option, it's a little bit different than being like the number one or number two guy in an offense. So I think he can be okay in that role.
And the one player that everybody mentions pretty much all this entire offseason so far is Denzel Mims' redemption tour. This is the year with a coach like Hackett and a quarterback like Rodgers, where instead of trying to force him to do things he can't do, let him do things he can do, and he finally flourishes and makes an impact. Are you buying or selling that idea?
I want to buy it, but I just can't after what I've seen the last 2 years. I don't know. He has a lot to prove to me still, and supposedly the new staff and him hasn't clicked yet. I've heard that from a couple different people, which obviously not great for someone who is still very much so has a roster spot to fight for. He is not guaranteed to be on this roster. Good athlete, but I don't know, man. I don't think he's going to suddenly turn into the guy we thought we were getting in 2020.
No, I agree too. Like if it happens, that's wonderful. He gets another chance, but I just don't buy into it. I don't see it happening. Now, the last spot on the offense is Zach Wilson in the backup quarterback position. So for me, I think Zach's going to get a tremendous amount of playing time in the preseason, which is awesome. They brought in Boyle, which is kind of probably be like helping Zach understand the offense because he's familiar with Hackett's offense. They have that. But do you think starting week one that Zach is the backup quarterback, or did he go out and get somebody like a veteran?
I think it is going to end up being Zach, which slightly scares me. But at the same time, like if you in another offseason, if this new coaching staff can't get Zach Wilson to the point where he could at least be a competent backup, then there's some major issues, man. I don't think it's going to end up being Boyle. Just from the limited playing time he's had in the league, it's been pretty rough. Not to say that Zach hasn't been either, but with what they're going to end up, paying Zach on his rookie deal, it's a nice chunk of change for a number 2 pick. I think he's going to end up being the backup guy. Now, early on in the offseason, I was all about bringing in a veteran backup and have Zach essentially redshirt and be inactive each week. But I don't think Tim Boyle is going to end up beating Zach Wilson out. So I think he does end up backing Rodgers up.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think the Jets want him to be there. They want him to be the backup. They don't want him to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I feel good. He's learning. But then it's like, all right, you never see the field unless it's like 41-3. I guess the biggest story on defense as this season starts playing out now, or the offseason starts playing out more, is be Quinn Williams in his contract. Right now, it's like everybody has a feel-good Aaron Rodgers experience, but if you watch all the players in the Jets, they're all tweeting the same thing, man. Give Q his money. Give Q his money. John Franklin Myers, he restructured his contract. He mentioned it. Extend Q. I think there's a lot of pressure on Joe Douglas now, man, because that's going to be a big-time contract. That's going to be a $100 million contract.
Yep.
You're going to get paid like one of the top 2-3 defensive players in the league. Do you think they get it done before training camp, or does this drag out and become like a distraction?
I really hope not. I think it does get done before training camp. And, right now that's the focus is going to turn to that after the draft. I would think at some point in May or June is when this deal gets done. If it gets pushed to July and towards training camp, that's an issue for me, because especially we've seen some young defensive tackles, sign some extensions. Jeffrey Simmons got his extension. There's your blueprint. I'm not saying you give him the exact thing, but that's the base of what you're, building off of. It
100%.
shouldn't be like that they're super crazy far apart on their numbers. So I do think it's something that gets done before training camp, and deserved for both sides on this one. Quinn is blossoming under Robert Saleh, and he deserves to get paid.
Now, I'm going to assume that Quan's coming back, just because I'm like a positive Jet fan. I'm riding the wave of all the positivity right now. What are your expectations for this defense this year? With you have Aaron Rodgers, so they probably won't be on the field as much, but they're also facing much better competition in terms of quarterbacks. Do you think they'll have the same success as last year, or could be a little bit stepped down, but still a very, very good defense?
I think they're still going to be a very good defense. And I think they finished somewhere in the top 10 defensively still. I don't know if it's going to be, as high of what they were last year, because on top of them playing against some pretty poor quarterbacks along the way at some points, they also were defensively, at least, were pretty lucky injury wise. They didn't lose any key guys for significant amounts of times, where most of the injuries felt like it was coming on the offensive side of the ball. So I feel like that's probably due for a regression. So someone's probably going to get banged up and miss some time. But still, expectation is that they should be a top 10 unit. Do they have the potential to be a top 1, 2, 3 in the league? Yeah, if everything clicks and they all stay healthy, yes. But I'm going to say they finish definitely in the top 10 somewhere.
No, I definitely agree. I think that they're still going to be very, very good, and not having to get 3 and outs every series helps too, where it's like the offense is going to help you be off the field. They'll be fresher. We're not going to complain about rotations. One of the interesting things about this team is you have all these big personalities now. You have Sauce, you have Garrett Wilson. Now you have one of the biggest stars in football here in Aaron Rodgers. How much pressure is on Robert Saleh to not only deal with all these new personality, but all these strong personalities, and the pressure to win from the pressure from the fans and me? Like, we're all expecting big things, dude. How much pressure is on Saleh this year?
I think there is pressure on both Saleh and Douglas. And, I think it's more from the fans than the players, because I think anytime anyone speaks of players, they all love Robert Saleh. Even Rodgers, he was talking about how much he loves Robert Saleh and how, his energy is just infectious and all this stuff. So I don't really see pressure from him having to manage the big personalities. I think they all love him. I think that really it's just about like, okay, it's time to win. And now, from the fans and the media, rightfully so, the expectation is that they should be a playoff team this year. And if they don't, then I think both, Saleh and Douglas, they're going to be in trouble. But I think he's going to do fine managing the personalities on this team.
Now, what would you like? Today's May 1st, which is crazy already. What is the expectation, a realistic expectation for this team in 2023? Is it make the playoffs and win one game? Is it win the division? Like, what should we really expect other than saying Super Bowl or bust?
So when you make a move for Aaron Rodgers, obviously that's the goal, right? Is the Super Bowl. And I think that this team has the chance to do it. The hard thing about saying that it has to be a Super Bowl or bust season is because there's so many good teams in the AFC and only one team wins. So I think that the first step is you have to end the playoff drought, right? That is the absolute floor minimum expectation. Then from there is the next thing up would be a division, and it wouldn't be a failure to me if they don't win the division, but I think they at least have to be a playoff team and win a playoff game. Anything more than that is great, obviously. But there are hopes and realistic hopes that this team can win a championship.
But you're thinking probably like 11 wins. Like, that's like, what do you think the floor is? 11?
Yeah, I think 11 or 12 is where I'm going to end up landing at. I think in that range, anything less than 11, I think would be a little disappointing for what they did. And I would love 13 plus. It's just, you mentioned it, that hard schedule, hard
Yeah.
conference, ton of good quarterbacks. I think like I said, I'm going to fall somewhere between 11 and 12.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm excited. And then the other thing is too is like one of the things when they brought Aaron Rodgers here, it was like, all right, what's the compensation going to be? And everybody once it came out, the Jet fans were kind of pissed off about year two. But then it's like you're starting to hear more and more that the contract he's going to restructure is actually going to kind of make it where he's going to play 2 years here. So what was your initial reaction with the compensation to actually get Aaron Rodgers?
It was pretty close to what I thought it was gonna be. The only part that really surprised me was the pick swap in the first round. I thought it'd be a second this year and a pick next year that is, that has the chance to turn into a
Yeah.
1. Moving from 13 to 15, that part I wasn't expecting, but the drop down in value was essentially it was equivalent to a late third round pick. So that's not nearly enough to upset me because you're landing Aaron Rodgers, and
Yeah.
it's something that you had to do. I think it was a fair trade for both sides. And my expectation all along was that this was going to be 2 years with Rodgers. I never really bought that it was just going to be a one and done, and how he's speaking and how the Jets are operating, it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case either. Connor Hughes is saying that it could be 2 or 3, maybe 3 years. I think that might be optimistic, but right now I'm pretty confident that he's going to play 2 years.
Yeah, and how awesome is it? Like the one thing you heard about Aaron Rodgers was he's like kind of like a diva. He's not really like a good teammate. He's kind of distant, only hangs out with his guys and all that stuff. He comes in here and he aces the press conference. Then he goes
Mhm.
on Michael Kay and aces that. Then he's there the next day practicing. He's hanging out with Brees Hall and Alan Lazard at the Rangers game. I'm like, and he looks like genuinely happy, dude. Like it's like there's like it's not fake. Like it's authentic. You can see he's happy. He's embracing it. He loves the challenge. He's talking about you got to change the mindset. We got to change this. And it's like, dude, that's like everything I thought was like my biggest concern was he going to be fully vested? Is he really all about coming to the Jets and making a statement, owning this team himself and carrying everybody? And he's all about it, dude. Like it's amazing to see, to be honest with you.
No, 100%. It's he is fully bought in. It's not just like, oh, I'm here to collect my paycheck and like that's it. It seems like he genuinely cares. He loves Hackett. He loves Salah. He buys into what Douglas is doing. And you're right. Him being there at practice like the very next day after the press conference, that was unbelievable. And I forget who, it was someone who covers the Packers or a Packers website or blog, whatever, was saying that they quote tweeted the video of him throwing with Garrett today, and they said it's been years since Rodgers done this, because usually at this point Rodgers isn't going to the voluntary stuff, and it was probably, I don't know, but my guess is the Love situation is when things really went off the rails when they drafted him, and that's when this really started to turn negative. But I love that he's here and involved so early in the offseason. I think it's great.
And we're lucky. We have your biggest fan right here. Elmo's here. See, look at that.
Elmo, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No, it's been awesome. That was the one thing is like Aaron Rodgers really going to embrace everything, and he has, man. And it's like this is it. Like all the pieces are falling in place. They're one united team. They're all buying in, and he's establishing his leadership. He's establishing the mindset, which is great to see. We still have a couple 3 months till training camp. What are a couple holes you want to see addressed? Or is there any spots you want to see addressed at? Because Joe Douglas is usually known for making moves before training camp. What do you any kind of spots you think he's going to move at?
Yeah, so one we talked about already is Quan Alexander. I think he is definitely someone who's going to be here before training camp. But also to add on top of that, I think they need another defensive tackle, someone who could be a pretty good run stopper. Like Al Woods is still available from Seattle. And it's not pretty. He's not sexy. He's not going to give you 5 sacks. He's going to, clog up the middle of the defense and help in the run game, which right now, that's what this defensive line is missing. They have Quinnen Williams, who's great on the inside. They brought in Jefferson, who's more of a pass rusher. But they need someone who can clog up the middle of that defense.
No, I completely agree, man. That's probably he's going to tinker. He always does. This time, next couple of months. So, do you have a prediction for the first game of the season for the Jets?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be Monday Night Football against the Giants on September 11th. I think that would be really cool for the city on that day to have the Jets and Giants go together. I think it's gonna be a primetime game. Rodgers' first game as a Jet. Maybe it's against a Dallas or a divisional opponent, but Jets Giants Monday Night Football. I feel like that's an easy layup for the league to do.
Yeah, 100%, man. And we were talking about it last night with Ryan. I'm like, if it's not the Giants, I want the Patriots, dude. Like, I want the Patriots at home and drop like 50 on them. like have Aaron Rodgers like coming out party, like here I am. This like we're done taking shit from people. You know what I mean? Like you want like that statement victory on the open the season up.
Yeah, no, totally. Because they've had our number forever, haven't beaten them since 2015. Like, you're right. Enough is enough. Like, it's a new era. That would be perfect.
Yeah, and like two more questions for you. The one is the Jets came out with the One Jets Drive trailer today, which you watch it and you want to like you just can't wait to just check it out because it's like behind the scenes footage of Aaron Rodgers and all this really cool stuff. What is your take on the Jets being on Hard Knocks?
A part of me would love it because in 2010 I thought that was so much fun when they had that team on there. But also another part of me is like I kind of just want them to take care of business and like not have to worry about these outside distractions. And there were a few. I think it was. I might be wrong, but I think it was Justin Hardy tweeted. Yeah, he was like, "I don't want to do it. Like we're good," kind of a thing. So if the players would rather just be like, "I want to just focus on this season," then yeah, like so. I lean more towards that side of like let somebody else deal with it. But at the same time, would I be locked in every week and think this is cool getting the behind the scene look? Of course.
Yeah, like there's been several players like Tyler Conklin, I think DJ Reed, Justin Hardy are all like, we're good, man. Like we just want to ball. We don't want to do all the extra cameras, all the extra nonsense. They got enough to get acclimated to. So before I let you go tonight, we started the stream an hour early because there's a huge hockey game tonight. And my co-host Kevin's a big Rangers fan. I'm a Devils fan, actually. Do you have a prediction for Game 7 tonight, Devils Rangers?
Yeah, I do. So I'm actually going to change my original prediction. So before the series, I said Rangers in 6. But ever since the Devils made the goalie switch, I think they've looked like the better team in this series. I know they lost kind of ugly in Game 6, but I think they bounce back at home and get the W and complete the comeback after being down 2-0.
See, now we're still friends, man. Because you got me a little nervous right there. I'm like, we're got the cut. This may have to go badly here.
No. Yeah, I think the Devils get it done tonight.
All right. Well, Matt, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I know it's early, it's 7:00, but it's like the game's coming on. Everybody wants to do their thing. I'm sure you're tired talking draft and everything. Everybody already knows you, but the ones that don't know you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can follow on YouTube and all social media at Matt O'Leary NY, talking Jets and trying to keep it light and fun and have a good time. And I appreciate you having me on as always, Tyson.
Dude, I had a blast. Thank you for your time, man. I know you're tired talking draft and stuff, so I appreciate it. And we got to drink again soon, man. We just got started at Shinedown. We got to like have some cocktails.
I know. Summertime's coming, man. You know the barbecue season.
Looking forward to it. Thanks again, Matt.
Anytime.